welcome, guys, and thank you for taking the time in joining this session. It's actually one of the simultaneous many sessions that is actually happening at the IUCN Global Youth Summit. And if you were actually yesterday on the opening, we had a good start with the intergenerational dialogue with these amazing speakers. For today, we also have youth across the ASEAN who would want to share their stories. But before that, we want to remind everyone with some of the guidelines that we wanted to do for this session. So it's nothing new if everyone is actually doing a lot of online conferences and workshops and meetings already. This is just a reminder for everyone. So please mute your microphone if you are actually not speaking. So we don't want to disturb the ones who are actually talking for the presentations. It's actually good to hear some dogs barking or birds chirping, but we will have to mute for ourselves now if someone is actually presenting. And of course, if your internet is fast enough, you can actually open your camera so we could actually see you, and we could at least try to connect to one another with your expressions. But if your internet is slow, it's okay. You don't really need to open your camera. And of course, just for the purpose of knowing where you're from and your name, please check on your profiles, check your name, and add your country on the Zoom platform there where you can change your name. And if you have something to say, you can always raise your hand at the bottom of the screen. You have your options there. And you can also use the chat box for comments or questions, which is later today. We will have some more of that through the question and answer portions of our speakers. So these are just a quick reminder for everyone. So please take note of these guidelines. And of course, our session and the whole IUC and Global Youth Summit is actually a safe space for everyone to talk about their inputs, their insights, their perspectives and cultures. So please, we remind everyone to be professional, respectful, and harassment free of others while they share their thoughts and inspirations as well while we are doing the session. So if you think there are participants who are actually harassing you, please don't hesitate to call in the moderators or the anyone from us so that we could actually talk about this and somehow try to limit those kind of activities here in the session. So please feel free to talk about things that you wanted to talk about for this session. So we're going straight ahead. Let me just follow through. So this is the session, but before that, I want to introduce to you my co-moderator for today, Mika Tan. Mika, same as me, is actually working with biodiversity conservation with the youth for almost 10 years now. And we are actually both co-coordinating the Global Youth Biodiversity Network Southeast Asia for quite a time now. So yeah, so we are going to be the facilitators for today, and later we will be introducing two of our amazing speakers for this session. And for just a quick background on the process that we're going to do today. So the roadmap, we start with a Menti. Later, Mika will show you just a quick Mentimeter to see how our audience is during this session. And from there, just a quick background there, what and who are the GYBNC. So Southeast Asia is actually a chapter of the International GYBN. And then from there, this is actually one of the most exciting thing that Mika will be talking about. What is Pecha Kucha? So why Pecha Kucha? So it's actually kind of like a tongue twister, Pecha Kucha. But later today, we'll understand more and we'll see how important Pecha Kucha is in terms of storytelling and in conservation, for example. And then from there, we'll hear Ras to talk about her story, and we will have a chance to talk to Ras and ask some of the questions that we wanted to ask regarding her story. And then after Ras would actually, we'll have a coffee break, just a quick coffee break while you get to have your coffee. And then we will also ask you to get some of your notebooks and pens because later we'll be writing some of neat stuff after the session. And then from there, we'll also invite Bright he is the next speaker after Rash, and he will also be sharing his story in Thailand. So, and after that, we will also have a chance to talk to him and ask him questions about what he is doing in conservation. And from there, we will have a group activity. That's where we will use our pens and papers and notebooks. And then from there, we'll start wrapping up and concluding this first session. And hopefully, we will have to ask the help of our technical advisor here for a group photo. And I forgot your name. Later, we'll introduce you because name is very kind of like hard to remember. Mm.
Hosaifa.
Josaifa, yeah. Sorry, Josaifa. I always forget. So Josaifa will be helping us with the technical stuff and some of the photos as well on the group. So yeah, that's it. So that's the roadmap that we'll be having for today, and tomorrow we'll have a different speakers. And I'll give it to Mika for the mentee. Go ahead, Mika.
Yay! Thanks, Mark. And okay, we want to hear from you too. So, for many of you who are using joining us from your computer or your phones, I'm not sure if you have a button here that you can click on to say view, and you can click on gallery view. Then you can see everyone else who's joining us here today with you. But if it's difficult to navigate that because you're using a small screen, that's okay. The default view usually will allow you to see who is speaking and the screen that is being shared. So I will now start with a really fun poll to know where you are all coming from and to get a sense of how prepared you will be for our session today. So go to menti.com. For many of you who are using your phones or on your laptops, just head on to menti.com and use the code here 97661840. Or you can use your phone to capture the QR code on the screen, or our wonderful tech volunteer Hosaifa will put in the link directly into the chat box so you can click on it and go direct to the Menti meter that is happening now. And if you are there already on the Mentimeter, click on the like, the heart, the like, or the cat. So when we see that moving, we know that there are people already joining us in the Menti. I don't yet see movement here, but if you are on the Menti, you can click on the heart or the like. Or maybe there's something going on with this right now. Let's see. Let's try with the first question. Oh no, it's not moving. Let's see.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. Which age range do you belong to? I don't need to know your exact age, but it would be nice to know roughly how old you are. Are many of us below 15? Maybe some years back? Or are we within this great range of life called youth, between 15 to 35 years old? That's generally the definition of youth. I'm not seeing this being populated. Let me try again. I have a feeling that it's either the code or something that's not allowing this to. Okay, I'm gonna refresh this a little bit and see what happens. Because I'm sure many of you are already clicking onto here. Like I see people nodding and like pressing things, but I don't see it on the screen. So let's give it one more try. If my connection would let me. Okay, there. Now I see many more results. Okay, hello everybody. Now we're back in business. So, wow, thank you for whoever is brave enough to put on that you are above 35, because we really, really, what we want to see here at the Global Youth Summit is everyone young at heart joining us. It really doesn't matter what age you are, because this has to be a intergenerational effort. So let's move on to the next one. Many of you already mentioned in the chat box where you're calling in from, what time it is. Some of you it's 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. Or for others it's 6 p.m., which is a comfortable time. And 10 p.m. for, I remember someone from Fiji. But since some more people have joined us since we started the call, just want to see where everybody is from. There's good representation from the Philippines, from Canada. Ooh, I see a flag flying around, and that flag is the Singapore flag. Nice. I didn't know you can put in a flag. Next time I'll get people to do that. Did you try that with your phone? Oh, this is so nice to see everybody calling in. Thank you for joining us no matter what time it is for you over there. And then now I want to ask you, when was the last time you heard or you read or you watched a story? And by story, I mean, well, if you think it was a story, then you can put an answer when you last heard a story. It could be your Instagram story, someone, your friend's Instagram story, or Facebook story. Many people today or yesterday. Mm-hmm. Some people the past week, some the past month. Wow. But many of you today and yesterday. So it's a very common thing for you to watch or hear or read a story. Then, what about a story about conservation or nature? When was the last time you heard a story about that? Or read a story? Or watched a story? Ooh, there's also a lot of data for today and yesterday. Would this be because of the Global Youth Summit? I think perhaps this question is a bit skewed because of the summit this week. More people towards yesterday or the past week, and then a little bit more in the past month, and I don't remember. That's okay, because you hear stories all the time. So this is a great segue for us to continue on with the session. And we will continue again with the Menti poll in just a little bit. Yeah, now I can see all the heart shapes and the cats and the likes. Okay, back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mika, for that introduction. So, wow, we are actually coming from all over the globe today. And thank you, everyone, for taking the time to actually have this session with us. And now, let me just have a quick background there for the GYBN. And actually, the GYBN is hosting this session for the Southeast Asia on the sharing our stories. So now I have to turn off my video because of the internet problem here, just to
Hmm,
have just to make sure that my slides are actually showing. And everyone seeing my slides now.
I can see it. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So I had to okay, wish me luck, Mika, on this one.
You will find out in a bit why.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So here we go. Global Youth Biodiversity Network Southeast Asia is actually a chapter of the GYBN International, where we actually have members across the 10 ASEAN member states of the youth who are actually active in biodiversity conservation, and some of us are actually doing on the community development. So GYBN is actually an international organization where it consolidates and create the network of individuals and youth organizations active on biodiversity. GYBN is actually the platform where the youth can participate on international level conversations, including the Convention of Biological Diversity. So currently, we have actually chapter members across North America. We have Latin America and the Caribbean. We have GYBN Europe, Asia, and Africa. And as you can see on the figures, we actually are able to reach already 2.8 million people across the 150 countries and 1.2 million members. So for GYBN, the main heart of what we are actually doing is these three pillars for the youth voices, which includes empowerment and capacity building. We have advocacy and campaigning. And of course, what is also very important is the mobilization and actions of the youth. And now we move to the ASEAN. ASEAN, very similar with the poll earlier today. So 33% of the ASEAN population is actually between 15 to 35 years old. And below 35 is actually comprises 65% of the total population of the ASEAN. And this is also from the ACB. As you know, the ASEAN region is really small, but in terms of how significant it is in terms of biodiversity, we actually hold the 18% of the known plants and animals across the globe. So that's how important the ASEAN region is in terms of biodiversity and also providing ecosystem services. Okay, now we move to the GYBN itself. So GYBN is actually established last 2017. Me and Bright and Ras is actually not a member yet, but Mika is. So we are able to start there. And the mission is actually, uh, the vision is to look into biodiversity. And of course, the mission is to build a regional coalition of individuals and youth organizations to actually stop biodiversity degradation through mobilizing and empowering young people in the Southeast Asia. So we have 10 member states across the Southeast Asia, and we are consolidating these youth. And one of the actions of GYBNC is actually to mainstream biodiversity issues within the Southeast Asian nation. So in this picture, actually, we are showing you one of the discussions on indigenous community conserved areas where indigenous youth take a real good part in terms of that conservation. And I mentioned earlier about the international conventions for the CBD. Singapore is actually one of the active organizations which actually conducted youth consultations for the post 2020 framework for the Convention on Biological Diversity. And later today, I think Brad will also share some of this. And of course, GYBN Southeast Asia also provides a regional platform for sharing knowledge, skills, and experiences on biodiversity issues and conservation. On the picture is actually Kier, one of the coordinators of GYBN Philippines, asking good questions on the panels for the GYBN conventions. And we have here Sefa, who's actually talking about some of conservation works. And GYBN actually assists the youth for accessing up-to-date resources and information and biodiversity and national biodiversity strategy frameworks of their respective countries. So that's the NBSAPs. And also, GIBNC has a lot of things going on. We also help develop and facilitate collaborations and dialogue among youth from different backgrounds. So later today, we'll see more of this when Bright actually shares one of his stories on conservation work. And of course, GYBNC, along with ACB and the ASEAN Youth Biodiversity Program, helps with the capacity building of the youth in the ASEAN nations and also helping outreach and awareness raising. So on this picture, we are actually doing a systems thinking exercise with the youth, and somehow that's how we relate to that. And I just also want to share you that from the GYBNC, we're able to help build another national chapters in Indonesia, where Nadia is the main coordinator for this. You can, if there are actually someone coming from Indonesia here, you can talk to her and email her on this email. And of course, we have Bright. We have Kitty Kun Saksun here one of the speakers. You will share one of the good stories of GYB and Thailand. And if someone is actually coming from Thailand, you could directly now talk to Bright regarding your conservation work in Thailand. And we also have, of course, I saw a lot of Filipinos here. Maraming salamat sa pagpunta. And you can actually talk to Kier and Josefa in terms of your conservation work in the Philippines, but could also talk to me and Ras later if you also wanted to scale up your work in terms of biodiversity conservation at the ASEAN level. And we also have GYBN Singapore. Carl will be talking tomorrow, actually, for his efforts in Singapore in terms of conservation network and conservation efforts, and along with the CBD youth consultations for tomorrow. Right. I have like few seconds left. Okay, and you wanted to talk to us more about what we do in Southeast Asia and how we can help you and how can we actually collaborate and network to other parts of the globe. You can actually reach us on Facebook and on email, joabnc@gmail.com, and just send us a message and we'll definitely talk to you. And that's it. That's a quick backgrounder for GYBNC. And it's actually a fun network where you can actually conserve and help community develop their biodiversity conservation, but at the same time, have a good network of friends and families and colleagues for conservation. And that's it. That's my whoo, yay.
Yay!
So
we're
yeah.
we're
Oh,
very excited that Mark was able to finish this presentation without any flaws, because you will hear very soon why that was a challenging moment for him. It is we are here today to try out a new way of storytelling, and we want to also teach you who are here together with us how you can do that for your own stories and to tell everyone about your own communities. Yeah, thanks, Mark. Okay, now I think it's for me to then explain to you what all this is about. Let me share my screen. Oh, sorry, I think I shared the wrong one. There are too many PowerPoints being open right now. There you go. Okay. Are you all seeing a presentation called The Power of Storytelling? I hope to
Yes, we
see
are.
nodding heads. Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I will run through this, and I'm feeling nervous too, and you will see why. Today, we are sharing with you stories of Southeast Asia, but more importantly, through all of these, we want to share about the power of storytelling compared to traditional presentations where there's a lot of data being thrown at you. And the title of the session is Weaving Our Stories for the Future We Want. And what kind of a future do you want? I asked you earlier today with the Mentimeter about when was the last time you all heard or read a story. And I think many of you might have watched TV recently, or Netflix, or you've watched a movie, or you've watched lots of different videos on YouTube, on TikTok, on Facebook. But which one of these are stories and which are not? How do you define what a story is? And from long ago, storytelling has often started with this thing called once upon a time. And then people would gather around the main storyteller and listen to what kind of grand story. Maybe it's a war between two tribes, or maybe it's just a love story between a man and someone else. Could be a woman, could be another man, could be just a story about love. But in modern times, generally, there are many definitions of a story. But let's try with this one. A story is someone having a hard time achieving something. This makes it quite relatable because we're all someone to someone else. We all can relate a little bit more to someone else that's also a human being. Others might relate more to animals, um, and some others might relate to emotions very well. But we can all read and understand human emotions. And sometimes your emotions run high because you're having a hard time. It's difficult to do something. And I'm sure many of us have encountered difficulties in doing something before, right? Nothing is always very easy in our lives. And that comes to the third part. A story often has some kind of achievement. You're trying to get somewhere. And then what makes it engaging, what makes it captivating is this whole chain. Someone having a hard time achieving this end result. So that's part of the ingredients that makes a story powerful and convincing. And why is that so? Well, it's part of how we've been communicating for a very, very long time. In fact, stories, it predates writing. Humanity as a society has been telling stories of war, stories of love, stories of how we relate to the natural world and between us and gods for millennia. And this is how we pass down knowledge and wisdom throughout history. And you saw there, history was his story, but let's make it her story as well. We'll hear some of that today. Storytelling can also help to simplify complex messages. And that doesn't mean that stories are short. Stories can be very long, but they help us to make sense of things that are otherwise very complex. A story triggers emotions. Many of us have, like I said, it's relatable because there's someone having a hard time achieving something, and all of us have gone through that in some way before. It also helps you set off imagination. It helps you imagine and fantasize and be inspired to do something similar to what the protagonist is doing. And finally, what makes a story powerful is that it brings people together. It motivates us to want to do something. And we need all of this in conservation. Right now, if we throw in lots of statistics, it may not work. But if we can mobilize people, and we want to show you how through one way of storytelling. There are many, many thousands of ways that you can tell your stories, like carving into the wall, but this method is called pechakucha. It is Japanese for chit chat. It's sort of like a sound of chit chatting. And pechakucha was devised in the architecture world and the design world. And it's a storytelling movement that has reached globally across more than 140 countries, with more than 130,000 stories being told this way. How? The stories are being told with 20 images for 20 seconds each, not longer and not shorter. It's the time that it takes for you to wash your hands to make sure you kill off all the different viruses and bacteria on your hands. But the images roll automatically. So you cannot take less or longer than 20 seconds. So today we will be hearing stories from Southeast Asia, and tomorrow as well, because we will have part 2 of our session. And I think Mark already introduced you to all the countries. So let's get going. Whew. So if you didn't notice, that was my attempt at doing a pechakucha presentation in the 20 seconds and 20 images format. And we tried to do that with Mark's presentation as well in the very beginning. And I hope it's exciting for us. And I hope that if you were to try it out for yourselves, it can also be a really fun way to tell stories. Okay, let's see now. Right. So, Mark, I will leave you to introduce our very first speaker for today, our other story that we will be sharing.
Yep. Thank you, Mika. So can you please share the first slide for her story? So
Yep.
I'm happy to introduce to everyone our first speaker coming from the Philippines. Her name
Oh.
is Rosel Rescordado. You can call her Ras for short. If it's okay with Rosel, we call you Ras for today. And RAS is actually working in an NGO, non-government organization in the Philippines called Gian Development Foundation Incorporated. And later today, from her story, we will know what she actually does in her work. And but right now, her position at the NGO is the community facilitator and also a marine researcher on the foundation. So, Ras, are you ready for your Pecha Kucha? Getting tongue-tied on the Pecha Kucha thing. Are you
You
ready,
can call it PK for
Yes,
short
yes,
if you
I'm
want.
ready.
ready for your
Okay,
Pecha Kucha? So take
because
it away, Ras.
once I click next, then your time
Oh,
starts.
okay, okay.
Okay, and go.
So, hi everyone. I'm Ras from the Philippines. I am a women conservation who also works with women to empower them. I am sharing you this story because I'd like to share how we assisted a community of women to become empowered to protect the environment. And let me introduce you the island I work with. And right now, this is Maliwalu Island. It's an island barangay in Leyte Gulf with a diverse ecosystems. It has two MPAs managed by a local people's organization. This island and its inhabitants were heavily devastated by the super typhoon Yolanda in 2013, and I have been working with them through GDFI in building a resilient community. In this, you can see the diverse ecosystem of Maliwalio. It has mangrove areas, seagrass beds. It has tridacna species as well, and it's a very beautiful place to dive in, actually. Yes, and welcome to Maliwalio. As you can see in this picture are 48 groups, meaning 48 fishing families from the no-build zone or coastal area that we relocated to higher grounds. And we call this village as the G2A Salcedo village. And some of the relocated families are actually transitioned illegal fishers. Women in this island are fishers too, meaning they don't just engage in pre or post harvesting of the fish, they fish with their husbands, meaning they go to the sea to fish. After fishing, here comes the problem. Women, they can sleep all day, they can gossip with neighbors, and they don't have any additional income from the family. So that during rainy season, it would take them 2 to 3 months before they can fish again. And families here are forced to take out loans from relatives and friends just to get by. So what do we do? That's where we come in. We formed a women's group to basically achieve a financial independence. But as you will see later in the story, they were able to achieve more. What are these? These are behavioral changes towards more sustainable practices. Then right now, let me introduce you the 28 awesome women that we work with. And we have three groups. We have food processing group, we have an herbal group, and we have the handicraft group. So these women, 28 women, are actively participating in household and financial management trainings. They have been working with, gardening through, they were trained to do biointensive gardening, weaving, food processing. And these groups were able to establish different livelihood. Some of them are doing fish drying, basket weaving, and they're using baril. It's a local material here in the Philippines. Some of them, they also make herbal products, as you can see, and they also maintain an herbal garden once in a while, but most of the time they do it because they need it for local remedies. And the women involved in the different groups since 2018 has been economically productive. Their products are not limited on what they were trained to do, but they have learned to assess the materials available in the area. For example, due to seasonality of products, the herbal group, for example, decided to go into buying and selling basic commodities such as rice, which is made available to the island residents during calamitous events. The group also maintains, of course, the herbal garden for local remedies during this stressing or like calamity and disasters coming in and such. And but also, women in this area have gained confidence in managing their household. Um, they've spearheaded resource conservation activities. They have worked with us in establishment of coastal green belt, and as well as a natural sand barrier that became a natural nursery for mangroves, as you can see in this picture. They have also worked with us um, in maintaining backyard gardens. They It became a recreational activities for the family, and they don't just plant, they preserve the native species in the island. And but most importantly, they were able to support family nutrition in the island, as you can see. And yes, these women are happily showing their produce. And as you can see, on the lower corner are, an example of food that you can taste when you go to the island, for example. And yes, these women also started waste management through waste segregation, composting, and reduction of plastic usage. As you can see, when an island is in full bloom, children, women of all ages, men are also happy. Yes, and of course, in Maliwalo Island, women plays a big role, not just in the household decision making. These women are also, a big help to their husbands. Some of them, for example, we have the handicraft here. They are making bread, local bread, and they also engaged in sewing masks that they were able to sell during the pandemic that earned them at least um, an amount that they can use for their families. These women also engaged in, as you can see, waste segregation, and these families have been practicing that, and it cascaded to the island, meaning other families from outside the village is also engaged in proper waste segregation. So the cascade of change also observed in and outside of the village. Before the project, it was a low priority for the barangay to work on waste segregation, but given focus by the women, the villagers, and the barangay council, it became a mainstream. And here you can see we just opened up the Children's Learning Resource Center with these women yesterday. And yeah, I'm so happy just to share it with you that this is another project that we do with these awesome women. And these children are so happy to use this center because, yes, thank you so much. Yes.
We weren't able to let you show more. It was 20
Yeah,
seconds for that last
30
one.
seconds per picture. But yeah, I got to squeeze in the last slide. Yes.
Yeah, we're super excited because this opened yesterday, right? This
Yes, yes.
children's education center. Woo! So we can see that there's still a lot of activity despite a lot of
Despite the
difficulties
pandemic.
happening elsewhere.
Mhm.
Yes. And I am also looking into the chat. So we'll now spend just a little bit of time to chat, to have a chit chat with Raz to find out more about the background of her story. Because every story has a backstory, and we want to learn a lot more about that. I mentioned in the chat box that if you have any questions for Raz based on her presentation, you can type it there. You can type it in the chat box, and then we will take them
Megan is raising her
whenever we
hand.
can.
Megan is raising
Oh,
her hand. Do you have a question for Ras, Megan? You want to share?
Yeah, I can put it in the chat if that's easier. But
oh,
I
that's
was just
okay.
curious
Yeah,
how you first
go ahead.
went about approaching the women of the village and how you did that process to get started.
Thank you so much, Megan, for that question. Actually, the organization has been here for 25 years, and after the Super Typhoon Yolanda, these women were relocated. So meaning they were living in the coastal areas, and after they were relocated to higher grounds, we needed to look at what we can do to help these women, engage on more productive activities, because it's so hard for these families to, just to be transferred to other areas. And so we started working with these women by um, engaging them in, orientations. We started asking them whether, how do you feel living in this settlement? How do you feel about earning more, for example? And what do you do with your idle time? Meaning, because usually women in small communities, they talk, you know, they just sleep all day after fishing, after doing household chores. And so after talking with them, uh, we've come up with what can we do for these women. And there you can see, you ask them about the current status of what they're doing. Then uh, you try to connect with them by saying, maybe we can do something about it. So that's how we did it. And actually, it's because of our organization that has been working with these communities for a long time, actually. Yes, thank
Okay.
Thanks
you.
so much, Raz. And
Um, yeah,
sorry.
we also have another one who actually wrote. He said he or he, I'm not sure. Mono Ara Muni, do you have question for Ras? Would you like to also open your video and ask her your question?
Sorry, I can't open the video because of one internet problem. But I wanna ask Ras that she told us about that women are also fishing, but they have to wait 2 to 3 months to fish again. So in that time, what are the men's doing? You are only working with women, but are you thinking anything about men also in that Maluvalu island? I wanna hear from Ras about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the question. That's so nice. Actually, yes. In this part of the Philippines, this is a usual typhoon route, meaning Super Typhoon Yolanda has devastated the area. Many strong typhoons has been, going out and inside, like that. And actually, before we worked on with the women, we have been working with the men of the island. We have other conservation initiatives that for example, we have before a mud crab ranching, which involved men. And basically, those are men protecting and guarding, safeguarding the mangrove area. But at the same time, we work on what we can do with this area. And that's where the ranching came in, which involves the men. Some other things we have actually research projects in the area which involves hard labor for the man. For example, we have sea cucumber. I don't know if anybody knows here what a sea cucumber means. It's actually a species of yeah, and we used to culture them and make because in the island that those species became extinct. And so we've been working on putting the sandfish back to the island, repopulating them. And this work involved men. And before we've been paying them for some labors and for example like that, so that during those times, 2 to 3 months, they have something to do. Yeah.
Thank you, Rash. Looks like the story with the men is actually another Pecha Kucha story for the
Yes.
yeah. Thank you for answering that question. Before we move to Mika's question, we still have one more coming from Aubrey. The question is actually, do the women go fishing, and if there are any effects of the pandemic for the women that you're actually working with?
Mm.
Can you?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. It was really a problem for us during the lockdown time last year, because since everything was in lockdown, there was no source of livelihood for these people. meaning what can they do to sustain or to get by each day. They do fish, yes, but for only for their consumption because no one would actually buy them. They are living in the island, and usually fish buyers, they come to the island, but and also even though our women are also fish buyers, they don't have a market to sell their products, so that's why they stopped buying. What did they do? I've mentioned that they've been working with gardening. So before the pandemic came in, we've been practicing bio-intensive gardening. Every household in the island were maintaining a backyard garden. And so when the pandemic came in, they had food, meaning food security was present in the island through that initiative. Another thing, our commodity store was actually designed to help people during distressing times. Meaning, for a family, for example, for the group, they will try to always keep a minimum of 10 to 20 sacks of rice, just in case when a typhoon comes, there will be rice in the island. And that helped them during the pandemic. But of course, their work was heavily devastated. I mean, um, because no source of income. But the families there in the island had something to eat. And that's a nice thing. Another thing, also another point that I would like to share, our handicraft group, they've been, experimenting on what to do because this product is off season. So during that time, it was an opportunity for them to actually sell face masks, which helped them because yeah, no other source of livelihood, and that was a big help for the family. Women helping the family because the men couldn't actually do anything because most of their work involves fishing or the sea. Thank you.
Thank you, Rash. So, Mika, do you also have other questions for Rash at this moment?
Yeah, I do because I'm also interested to know whether there was why is there such a big focus on women in your work? You talked about yes, there were projects with men, and then there was also projects with women. So, but why are they segregated? Why are they not together?
Mm. Actually, way before we implemented this women-focused livelihood, women has been helping out with their husbands with everything that they do. But it's just that after a long while, we can see women still has spare time. What can you do about it? The income of the family is not enough with only those activities you can do at the sea. So with these women still having more time than their husbands actually, so why not engage in something productive? So these women are actually happy because not all women, by the way, from the group are with the family. Some of them are already, their husband already died. Their children already has different families, and then it has become a burden to these women to actually depend on their children to get by each day. And by engaging in this program, they can support themselves, and they can help their children as well. So that's the reason.
Mm, mm. I know that Eka has their hand raised, but I do have one more question, just really quickly. That was there any
Mm.
prejudice against the women, and if so, how did you overcome that in the community?
Prejudice meaning
Like
it's
discrimination that women are not allowed or not supposed to be doing some things.
no, actually it's weird. In this island, you can't see prejudice among women.
Oh.
Women here are,
Mm-hmm.
very strong. That's why I actually chose to tell you this story because it's a different area where when I came in, I just see women very, very active. Women, um, s- they're strong. They really have a say. But it's kind of limited as well because we wouldn't really know if like inside the household who would do the decision making? Is it the women? Is it the men? Because even though women and men goes fishing together, I think men would provide more income for the family. So I think it's something us women, we would like to have some money with us, do something about it, improve our households. So yeah, that's us.
Mm. Yeah, okay. Thanks so much. I think we have time for one question from Eka or any others who have more questions in the chat. You can fill it in now. And then after that, we will go for a quick short break. So, Eka, you raised your hand. I think you can unmute and ask your question.
I noticed that you were able to diversify nutrition sources through your project, and I was wondering whether you've noticed that the tiny community became more food secure after you implemented the project.
Pardon again, I did not hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I noticed that you were able to diversify nutrition sources through backyard gardening. And I was wondering whether you saw that the community that you worked with became more food secure after you implemented the project.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, that's a very good question. Um, we relocated these 48 families to actually a barren land. It's a cogonal area, meaning it's a grassland. You couldn't see anything, maybe some banana trees, but nothing else. So from that being said, actually the island doesn't have a very big agricultural space. So what can we do? We maximize the space for each family to engage in backyard gardening. Actually, during the training, we told them during this training, these are the seeds, native seeds that we have, and that this will be the last time that we would give it to you. So we engage them on seed saving. We engage them on things that could preserve those in the island. And actually, every time we come here, there are just so much produce. And actually, families here not just sustain food for their tables, but they can actually earn some from it because, for example, a neighbor would like to eat an eggplant, and then she doesn't have an eggplant, so she'll just go to her neighbor and say, "Can I buy some eggplants from you?" Yeah, and it's so nice. Yes, I think we're getting there. Food security in the island is evident with the produce that we have here now. But
Great.
yeah, we need to plant more.
Thank you so much.
Food security, I think, is it's a really important issue now, especially with all the lockdowns around the world because of COVID. And I come from an urban background. I am calling in from Singapore and I am Singaporean. So food security for me also means a lot, even as a citizen living in a city where I don't have a backyard to plant things, but I can still try and plant some little spinach plants, for example, in my little corner. But okay, we will be taking a really short break of 5 minutes, and then we will come back and hear a story from Thailand. And it's going to be a very different story, sharing about how young people can connect with decision makers for biodiversity concerns. So the 5 minutes will start, and I'll play a nice song. Hopefully it's about 5 minutes long. So then when it ends, people can come back. And please bring with you a notebook and a pen or pencil. We're going traditional for now. Okay, see you in about 5 minutes. Let me share my sound. And let me know if it's too loud or anything. Where was this? I'm looking for... Oh, there it is. Okay. Too loud? Good? That was the first song. And this playlist of mine has a collection of songs from all over the world. from the biodiversity community. And it was on shuffle. Music can be another way of storytelling, right? Let me see, how can I share this playlist? It's an open playlist. For people who know how to use Spotify more, can you explain to me how to share a playlist?
Because there's an option on your Spotify. Are you using Spotify for your playlist?
Yeah. Okay.
There's option there
Copy
on
the link to playlist. So I have a link here. I think that's the playlist. Nice. Do we have people coming? Is everyone back? And we can start with our Thai story.
yeah. So you,
Bright's like, oh no, it's my turn. We have to do the Pecha Kuja.
if you're here already and if you got your notebook and pen with you, we'll start in a bit.
Mhm.
And
We'll use the notebook later in an activity.
uh,
Okay, I'll slowly phase out the music. And there we go. Hello, welcome everyone, welcome back. We're continuing with our stories from Southeast Asia, and we will hear next from Bright Saksung or Kitikun Saksung. We'll do a quick introduction of him and share his slides. Let's see. I hope I got the correct one. Is this the right one? Are we seeing Bright there?
yes, correct.
Bright or Kitikun Saksung is from Thailand and he's a youth engagement officer with UNDP. He joined us and he will tell you that he's not actually from the biodiversity world, but then we managed to pull him in and have been doing great projects with him so far. He'll be sharing today a story about GYBN Thailand and how young people will have been engaging with the government of Thailand about biodiversity issues. So Bright, whenever you're ready, let me know.
I guess so. Yes, let's do it. Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Bright, and I'm currently a coordinator of GYB in Thailand and also the Youth Engagement Officer on climate change for the UNDP. So to start with, when we talk about policy today, I would like to show you about like how young people can engage at the policy level. When we talk about policy, some of you might feel like so eager or feel encouraged, like you know how to engage with it or would like to engage with it, but some might feel like it's so far to reach and how can we actually can do that. Like at the moment, we can see that there are lots of the youth movement, either for the climate change or for some other topics that has been mobilized like across the world. And some of you might wonder, like throughout those process that we've been trying, is it really successful? Is it worth it? Like, how is it gonna affect us in like 10, 20, or 30 years from now? Are we gonna live happily or struggling through all the environmental issues like that has been occurred until now? But I hope my series today will give you some light on how young people can really engage at policy level. For example, the biodiversity that I will show you like in a moment. But to kick off, I would like to tell you a bit about myself. Actually, my background is not from the biodiversity or biology, as Mika already told you, but I'm from the business or logistics management side. And then I turned into like change my focus into the sustainability environment. And then I get to join the event called ASEAN Youth Biodiversity Leaders, which I get to know like 10 young active ASEAN leaders and learned about how like amazing their work is, and it's very like empowering how young people can be like so effective and like productive like together like that. And at that event, I get to learn about the post 2020 global biodiversity framework, which was the policy that at the global level, like UN level and also like countries across the world are negotiating about the directions of biodiversity that will be managed in the 10 years after. And it's so timely that after I finished that event, I get to got selected to be an intern at the Biodiversity Finance Initiative program at the UNDP Thailand Country Office, which I get to learn more about the possibility or how the government side has been working on the environment and see like the momentum or the arena how Thailand has been doing. So after I joined, I get an opportunity and support to organize the Thailand Youth Voices for Biodiversity, which I gather like about 50 youth leaders across the country to come together and learn about biodiversity, and then engage with the government who work on biodiversity as well. After that, I get to join the United Nations Conference on Biodiversity, which is one of the process to negotiate the directions for the post 2020 that I mentioned earlier, and to see like how possible it is that young people can be engaged in that big arena. And then it's so empowering that I have to come back and then organize another event called Youth Public Hearing for on the Draft Biodiversity Act, which uh, the government also take part in and learn from us how we can organize the event throughout the pandemic, which at that time it was just started. And then after that event, um, uh, it's I get to reflect a bit with my team that after all the results or things that we've been discussed, how youth can be actually included in the policy or where actually youth has been mentioned in this policy. And we found that there barely like nothing in there or it's quite weak in there. So my team, we'll go back and then try to search more about the existing materials that can show up like the indexes or the statistics about youth, either on environment or the social side. And then we see that how youth and the environment can be actually included or integrated into other topics and make it more mainstream. And then to make it clear on how on the youth and the environment like aspects to be included in the policy, we need some certain materials to support as well, either the policy or the mechanisms that have been suggested from the like um, famous or acceptable, like well-known resources. So after we learned all of that, we decided to produce the Thailand Child, Youth and the Environment Survey to learn about the conditions or the status that youth has been perceived related to the environment in the country. And then we also now organizing the GYBN Thailand Youth Consultations, where we include our government as well into the process and to provide a recommendation to the both global post 2020 framework and also like push it into the national like projects to for youth to work with like various stakeholders together. And here is a picture that we took with the government focal point who are responsible for the biodiversity. And as of now, they already mentioned that in the next NBSAP or the next biodiversity plan for the country, they will include youth into the process since the start, so that youth can be included in the policy like officially. So talking about like engaging with the policy, we can finish it without talking about intergenerational equity, where some of us might have experienced that sometimes young people are perceived as someone who need to be provided with, not always to be like create something with ourselves. And that's something that we need to work on and communicate with the adults or like the partners. So from now on to finish this, like nothing about it without it, same as to youth. If there's nothing about it, there's nothing about you in the policy, there will be nothing about us in that as well. And lastly, like from the picture, we might feel like, okay, we want to like get it done so fast, but policy is like a tree, I think. We can't truck a bucket of water to the tree when they expect it to grow beautifully, but we have to like pull a drop of water and let it grow. Thank you very much.
Woo! Yeah, 20 slides and 20 seconds each. That's 6 minutes and 40 seconds to tell your story. And there can be so many things that you want to share, but thank you for sharing. And for the last image, yes, many of us do think that policy, we want something to happen now, but you can't pour an entire bucket of water on a little seedling for now.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you. And actually, your slide with this reminded me that we should take a group photo. So let's do that. While do we want to do that now or after we ask you all kinds of questions?
Probably Mika, before we end the session, will take a group photo because Josefa is actually the one handling the group photo later. So
Yeah.
this
Okay.
the
So
session
let's.
with
Mhm. So then let's get going with questions for Bright. Anybody who has questions about, whoa, how do you organize such big events? How did you, get in touch with your government and all of those? I see Megan has a question.
Hey, yeah, I was curious how you keep people engaged. I find that sometimes it's really easy to get people involved initially,
Your
but then
connection's a little tough.
this
Not
is
really. Oh no, your
okay.
audio
Sounds like
is quite
robot Megan
difficult.
now.
She sounds like she's going through a mixer and then.
perhaps Megan, you can just type your question in the chat box, then we'll just ask that right.
Yeah. Thanks, Megan. Anyone else who wants to raise your hand, you can unmute yourself to speak, but raise your hand first so we know and can call you in order. Or otherwise, if you're not able to talk right now, you can also type your question in the chat. I'll just start with something for Bright. Then, well, what was it like the first time you met your country's focal point for biodiversity? Like, have any one of us else met your country's focal point for biodiversity? How was it like?
Yeah. I'm not sure about the artists who have met or like have the feeling of being like get to meet them. But for me, because the ASEAN Youth Biodiversity Leaders was organized in Bangkok, and I was so lucky that the government focal point joined us there and like join the activities when I like get everyone to dance, like do the traditional dance, like scream it out. The government partner also join us in that dance as well. So it's like kind of like icebreaking in a way that I get to discuss with them, work with them, and then it was fun like to get to know each other at that time. So it was like it's a fun way to get to know them at that time, and it changed my mind as well because them are so quite relatable, not unlike what I expected the government officials to be like. So yeah, I think I was like able to meet like them, for these teams and work with them after that. And after that event, I actually get to update or keep the momentum with them as well because I get to work at the UNDP and some other work related to biodiversity. I need to link with them, and so sometimes when my supervisors go to the office, and I will tag along and then like to like get in touch and talk about lives and share the stories. And then when I have something come up, either about youth or environmental related activities, I will share with them, and then we get to share some of the perspective related to the issues, and then whenever I have something, I will just ping them the message, and then um, get their ideas and how we can help each other to make it happen.
That's super cool. So just as a context, we were doing an icebreaker during one of the events that Bright was at with also the national focal point, and then we asked Bright to show us because at that time, so I'm telling a story now. At that time, Bright's brother was having a wedding, so we
Yeah.
asked him what are some things that Thai people do at weddings, and then he said we scream and we shout. And so we asked him to do a demo and we joined in with him. And that was how he met his national focal point for biodiversity.
Yes, exactly. I would love all of you to join the dance right now if the time allows, but maybe next time.
It might be a bit weird because then I'll be screaming, but my
In front of the
family is
laptop.
out there.
Exactly.
They might be wondering, are you okay? You're in a Zoom meeting.
Yes.
Okay. Now I see questions in the chat box and also a hand raised. Let's take Megan's question. How do you keep youth engaged? I find sometimes it's easy to get people involved initially, but keeping them engaged is difficult.
Yes, exactly, Megan. It's always happened like that, I think. But to keep the youth engaged, I think it depends on the type of activities that you organize. If it's like the activities that you get to learn or get some hands dirty, that kind of thing. Like most of the youth will be interested and then find a way to come and join. But for this kind of activities for youth on the policy, it, it will be more on the discussion, speaking, talking like all day long, and then trying to come up with the ideas on what will be the intervention or recommendations that we will like take forward and discuss with the policy decision makers. So to keep them engaged, I think one of the way that I use is that I keep those who are interested in policy or this kind of issues in a loop as a core team or like as an advisor for the program, so that whenever we come up with the idea that we at this time we would like to organize an event either about a public hearing about or getting like young people's opinion about something, we will have them to engage with us. That's the first step. And the second step, these people will have their own networks to share the events, like all those people who have the same interest in policy or voicing their opinions. So will that way is the way that we get people to keep engaged with us, like in like every single event that we have been organizing to now. Yeah, and also one more thing is that we're not engaging only with the young people themselves, but also those NGOs who already have experience or like feel eager that young people need to like have the potential to do something, and they're happy to help out on promoting and then advise on who should be engaged on these kind of activities. And yeah, that is another way. Sometimes they even have the network for the communications through media, and yeah, it can be linked out to different kinds of ways of your network. I hope it
Right?
answered your question.
Megan is okay with the answer, right? We have another question. Actually, Energy raised his hand, but he also typed the question. Would you like to ask personally the question, right? Or just leave the question on the chat box? Would like to talk deep energy, if it's okay with you? Or I could just read the
Or
question. So,
yeah,
Bright, the
Mm.
question for Deep is actually if there are one or two priorities that you are actually trying to push through your collaboration with the government, what are these priorities? Would you like to share?
yes, definitely. Sure. For the priorities that we push for the government, when I talk with the government, I separate um, like the point into like two ways. First is the agenda, like the priorities about youth itself, because when like most of the time when we try to push youth agenda, like many times the government officials or not only like the one that I work with, but also the other agencies as well. Sometimes they don't see why they need to include youth more than they have engaged, or from the existing camp that they already made like for like maybe 2 times a year, it's like one time event and then done, and everyone like separated like that. So one thing that I need to communicate with them is that like why do we need to engage youth into this process? What will be the benefit that they will get from engaging with young people? How young people can accelerate their actions um, on whatever agenda that the government themselves has, and we can and how we can work together, not just by themselves for one another, but together and achieve like um, the common goal that we have together. And another thing is that for the first point about youth, I'm talking about it not only just about youth itself, but youth and environment itself as one. Like human and nature is not as separated, but it's all connected. Like those kind of messages that I need to bombard a lot with them so that we can have the same picture like in the long term. And the second part will be on any priorities that we collect from the sessions or from the youth voice activities. Um, uh, for example, last time, the first time that we met, we organized the Thailand Youth Voices for Biodiversity. We can come out with the four agenda on like that you'd want to push out, which was the education, the youth leaders at the local level, the promotions of the indigenous wisdom and knowledge to be widespread nationwide, and the last one was um, I can't remember the last one, but because during the time that we were struggling with all the pandemic and things like that, we were able to push only some. But then for this consultation that we are doing right now, we've just done the first stage. So we get to dig deeper on some of the issues, and there will be the second stage that we will like discuss not only among youth, but include other stakeholders from private sector, NGOs, the government as well, and to find the like the way forward, like the channel that youth can be mainstream to those work and strengthen the environmental issues on different topics as well. For example, that we have like local management, which we would like to mainstream the youth leaders at the local level, like a sub-district like that. And the second one, like the education, that we would like to try on the transformative education through the like outdoors learning scheme, and through the use of the database or the, if you know iNaturalist, I think some of you know it, like to try it, like how database can be used uh, by youth and how they can like um, distribute it into their work or studies at schools or at work. And the last one will be we were deciding either on the um, uh, financial resources for young people to pursue the degree or research, or the communication that would be more effective on changing behavioral. So at the end, I think the way to prioritize these issues, it depends on what would be the the closest achievement that can be like can be make can be made happen the soonest, so that everyone can have hopes and then see the results the soonest, so that next time when we engage or make any plans, we can see the potential of engaging with young people, with various stakeholders, and work together after that in the long term. Yeah. And yeah, that would be my answer for that.
Thanks so much, Bright. Yeah.
You have
What
questions?
what is most possible? Because we need to see success sometimes.
Yes, especially with the policy that sometimes takes so long and everyone's like, oh my God. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. And I see some of you are pros at Zoom. You're already using the Zoom reactions to laugh and to heart and to do all kinds of reactions to our speakers' comments. So keep them coming. And I don't see any questions so far anymore, but I do have a question for you right before we transition to our last activity for today. So since this session is about storytelling, it's about the future we want. You shared a lot about the future that youth want in biodiversity policy. Then now I want to ask you about storytelling. So as we were preparing for this event, it's not easy, I guess, to tell a story in this 20 by 20 format. So what are some of the challenges for you in doing this Pecha Kucha format?
Yeah, there are lots of challenges here because there are lots of stories, and because my topic is about youth engagement policy, right? Some of us may feel familiar with it, some of us might not. And what would be the most interesting part that everyone's want to hear about? And that's the first thing. And so the like the stories that I pick for you, like the main message would be, yeah, first it takes time and the process, and sometimes it might not be fun, but it's it's a way of hope to get the long-term results where we don't have to be struggle as we feel on some issues right now. And that would be the main message that I'd like to convey. And the struggling, another part is that sometimes one photo is not enough to describe everything. We have to put like throw everything in a one page, or maybe more. Sometimes we need to cheat and need some practice as well. If someone here would like to try the Chikucha next time, let's do it. I mean, it's a great one to try, but be well prepared because you might finish it earlier before it go to the next one, or you might not finish it within one, and you still have like hundreds thing in your head to tell everyone's up. So yeah, it's a good one to try. So next time you have any stories, feel free to share. I would like to hear from like, yeah, the stories from everyone as well.
Right. Thank you very much, Bryce. So now we would like to transition on also involving the audience on doing their own Pecha Kucha. But before that, we want to ask you and Ras this $1 million question. So are you guys ready, Ras? So
It's $1 million.
stories you actually share with us, please know the question. What is the future for you? What is the future you want? Tell us. Share us with the group. What is the future that you are actually seeing in terms of the youth, in terms of biodiversity, and in terms of women, for example, or the environment? Who wants to go first?
Just 1 or 2 minutes, not longer.
Yeah. All right. Ras, raise your hand. So, Ras, please tell us the future. What is your future? I think Ras, you're on mute.
Actually, no. I see her control says she's not on mute, but we don't hear you.
Yeah.
Try again. Maybe you plug and unplug your earpiece.
Yeah. Hello?
There.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Sorry about that. Honestly, I would like to share that in this part of the Philippines, being devastated every now and then by typhoons, most especially so hard, meaning biodiversity conservation has to, you have to do it again and again, because after you do some work this year, then at the end of the year, it will just be washed out or something because of a strong typhoon. And this is Giwan. This is Easter and summer for all of you. So what I see is actually um, building resilient communities through focusing on resource management, because it is only through conservation initiatives, incorporating it in building a community that would make it resilient and sustainable. Meaning we have a lot of options We can build dikes, we can build seawalls, but what other options you can do that is more sustainable in the future? Um, Establish a coastal green belt, capacitate these people to lower their risk. That's a future that I want because in our organization, we just don't do conservation. We engage people to actually learn and think that if I want to live or um, if I want my children to live in the near future, these are the things that I need to invest in. And it takes a long time, not just women, guys, men, children. That's why after doing a lot of work with women, we now engage on children. We start them young. We engage them on what do you want to do with this island because this is yours. And yes, as a resilient community is something that I look forward to in the future. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Rush. That's really wonderful future. And before we started crying on how inspiring that was, we moved to Pride, right? What's the future for?
Wow, Raz, how I can top that? Oh yeah, I really agree with Raz that resilience is like one of the things for the future, and like to add on that, to make it resilient, I think in the future it would be good if we can actually live in a society where human and nature actually integrated as one. It's not just when we work when we talk about environment, it has to be separated from the socio-economic part. Like most of the time that like sometimes we like um, talk about the issues about young people and things like that. But an environment is actually involved in everything, in every element of our lives. And then whatever actions that we decide to take, either consumption or leave or like any services, it's also have impacts on us. So I hope that in the future, young people, like or the generations from now on, we will equip more faster uh, about the knowledge related to things that affect us and be able to adapt fast. And yes, come back to the resilience, as Raz say, yeah, and reduce other risks and be sustainable. Yeah, that will be my answer for this as well.
Thank you, Bright. That's also a wonderful future that we also wanted to be with and to be in. And now we will have a chance to also talk to the audience. Mika, would you like to give the instructions for them? So we can start
Mm-hmm.
with
So we've come to the last segment of today, and we have just about 10-15 minutes to do our final activity. And this one involves you. So what we want you to do is to take out your notebooks and your pen and pencil, and we want you to draw. But don't worry, I won't be grading you. I won't see what you're drawing and writing. But what we want you to do is to think about the story of your life so far. So we've talked about stories all today, and something that everybody has is a story about themselves. So let's start there, okay? This is an activity to map out your life story. So you're going to reflect on your life so far, but think about, so if you draw a line from the start, if you draw a line from the start to today, oh, can't see it. Well, from the start to today, when were you born? Write down your birthday. So write down your birthday. I don't need to know when your birthday is. And then think about the moments, the important moments in your life that have shaped who you are now. It could be, for example, when you moved from one place to another, from one country to another. It could be a moment when your sibling was born. It could be when you lost someone important or an important pet in your life, and how that changed you. try identifying about 5 of those moments, and I'll give you time with some background music to draw it out in your own timeline. I'll have to stop share really quickly just so I can share my music too. Okay. Share sound. Okay. I will find I'm playing from this playlist, so let's see what comes up. Let me know if it's too loud or if it's okay. We're on to song number 2. Do people need more time to fill out their timeline? I had to extend my line down to the second line. I identified more than 5. You have about 2 minutes left to the end of the song. And then we'll move on to the next part. I think I touched something.
The song is very catchy.
This playlist.
Yeah.
This is a nice playlist, Nika.
Yeah, and it's actually GYBN's playlist. It's an open playlist where people can put in your songs that remind you or make you feel good about doing something for nature.
Hello, Chow, coming from India. Welcome. We're almost at the end of the session. But we have another session for tomorrow. Hope
Yeah.
everyone can again tomorrow.
Tomorrow we will do similar things, but with different storytellers. So we hear from other parts of Southeast Asia.
We'll be bringing in someone from Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore.
Let's see, how long more? There's less than 1 minute left for this song.
What's the name of the song, Mika? DJ?
This one is called On the Line by Volunteer.
I'll save it, thanks. This is like a line of life
We're
that
reaching
writing
the
now.
end. Your life on the line, right? Yay! So I hope you've managed to think and reflect a little bit of your own lives and what are some of the moments that are really important in your life. And drawing them out in a timeline lets you see, to me, I realized I did 5. And then I was like, wait, there's still more. There's this thing. And then there was this other thing. And then there was this other thing. So every single one of us is filled with stories. We have something to share and something that other people can relate to. And what that also means is that whoever that you meet is someone that you can relate to in some way. There's something in their lives that you don't know yet, but if you listen and hear about it, you might be able to find some connection. And that's the power of storytelling. We were doing at the beginning that why is a story powerful? Why is it convincing? Why when you watch the Avengers movies, you really want to, you feel inspired to work together with friends towards a common cause. Things like that is what we really need now in conservation. So before we end today's session, I just wanted to ask from you all, you can take this as your life story map and then think about whether you want to try doing the Pecha Kucha presentation and have people hear your story, or you can also go to pechakucha.org, and there's a ton of stories already uploaded online. And these are not just biodiversity stories, there are stories about everything. There has been a lot of stories about how different people around the world cope with the COVID pandemic. There are lots of stories about design, because that's the world that started this whole storytelling movement for Pechakucha. So definitely check out the website. And then I wanted to hear a little bit from you all. Well, what was one thing that you learned from today? You can type it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and say something, unmute yourself. But
So,
what is one thing?
well,
Mhm.
everyone, may I just share a quick one as well, just to continue on your narrative on the life's moments?
Yeah.
Mine, but what I wanted to say is that some of the life moments are not always positive. There are downsides of things, like what I did here, because some moments are actually the things that we don't want to happen, but it still happens, and the way we react on this are actually important, and sometimes it actually helps who we are right now as well. So it's actually both positive and negative when you look at your life moments. So yeah, so that's also what I wanted to share. That you also have to recognize the downsides of the things that are actually happening for us, and then you actually look at on how we react to this, and how that negative experiences also shape how we think and how we learn in terms of biodiversity conservation. So yeah, I also just wanted to add that.
Thank you for sharing, Mark. And if anyone else wants to share some learning that happened while you were working on your story, or yes. So I'm reading here already some of the learnings and insights from today. Not all stories have to be written down. Mhm. We were able to share stories with photos and pictures. And actually, storytelling, as old as it is, has always been an oral tradition. Isla learned about creative exchange together. Yay! Amanda learned that Southeast Asia is a very diverse and important region of the world. Good job, Mark. Your Pecha Kucha convinced her.
Thank you, Mika. That was really hard on the 20 by 20, but fun to experience. So I encourage everyone to do the Pecha Kucha as well. Oh, I can like pronounce it really well now. Pecha Kucha.
Mm-hmm. After a while, you get it.
Yeah, my tongue kind of like get used to it. Pecha Kucha.
We learned that youth can take initiative to make a change if we want. Mm-hmm. Very similar sentiment from Rachel, that all of us have an amazing passion and drive to improve the planet. Mm. I'm just reading through the comments now here in the chat box. There are many stories in our lives, and that different people can have different stories. There are also many things in common. Yeah, stories bring people together. I hope it brought all of us together for a quick 2 hours of today, tonight, wherever you are in the world. The power of storytelling in 20 by 20 seconds with pictures. Yay! Thank you so much, everybody. And I will wish you a good day and a good night. For the ones who are in Canada, I see it's gotten very bright now on your side. When on this side of the world, where bright is, it has gotten dark. Oh wow, for Amanda, it's still dark. The sun hasn't risen yet. Wow. But soon you will hear the birds chirp, I hope. So thank you, everybody. And if you'd like to continue, tomorrow we have session number 2, where we will hear stories from elsewhere in Southeast Asia, but at the same time, maybe Amanda needs to get some rest.
Yeah, before we go, let's have a group photo if it's everyone okay with that. So please open your camera for a group photo. And thank you, Josefa, for doing this. Let's also give a big thanks for our technical support for today. It's Josefa. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So we're taking screenshots now for the group photo.
Yeah, everybody tidy up your hair, and then we'll take a picture.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Okay, we'll do that in 3, or Josaifa, do you want to call the shots? Okay, in 3, 1, 2, 3, smile! Smile to the camera! Keep smiling until Josaifa says okay. Are we good? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Everyone for joining. We'll see you again tomorrow.
You
Thank
can
you,
Tomorrow,
unmute and say
everyone.
we'll hear from Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore. Thank you, everyone.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us with video. That was super fun.
Woohoo!
Thank you,
Congratulations.
Hosaifa.
Congrats.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Thank you for our storytellers. We had
Thank
fun.
you so much. Thank you so Mark and Mika.
Thank you so much.
It's tough, no?
Yeah,
It was so
For
tough
getting
for
us
us.
through.
I was
It was
all over the place actually. The points. And I think the slides are like a little bit slow. I was like, okay, it should have been this live and I'm talking about this. It's like, okay.
I was
Yeah, but
actually,
it's the first time.
guys, I was actually waiting for the chicken. You removed the chicken, right? So it was like, oh, where's the chicken?
Yeah. I did not put the chicken anymore.
there was another story.
Yeah.
It's a good-
Mm-mm.
Is this Zoom room needed for something else?
Yeah, should we go? Should we go? We still have 2 minutes though. So let's process the event later or some other time perhaps.
yeah, we need to send in some like what do you call it, like a recap of what happened today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And,
yay, thank you.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Zipa. I can now pronounce her
Thank you,
name.
everyone.
I can now remember it very well.
It sounds like Josefa, who is a friend of ours, but he's Josaifa. I hope I got it right. I've been calling you throughout. Okay, ciao. Is it me who ends the session? Is that how it works? Oh, I think so. Okay, bye.
Will you share the photos afterwards?
Yeah, I will send it in the chat group. Oh, will the recording be put up on the Google Drive or something?
Can ask actually the tech for that on where to get a copy.
Yeah, will we be able to get a copy of the recording?
Yeah, I think it's going to be saved on the cloud, but I have